Hello, this is George Lees. In the middle of the sectioning month still, yeah, with all of that state-sponsored death threat hanging over his head, yeah, I've discovered some horrible things about English history, and I want to share them with you, because it's quite laughable really. The whole of English history is about brutalisation of the whole world, and they sing songs about it. We've played this one to you before. Ooh. Oh no. It's Rule Britannia again, the joke about Britain ruling the waves. And the story I'm going to tell you about is about one of our most famous explorers in the United Kingdom, yeah, who is the man who discovered tobacco in America. He never actually went to North America. His missions are looking for El Dorado, the city of gold. So he goes to Latin America all of the time. Okay? But I don't understand why that will not play now, because it just, wrong country. Okay? So this, a lot of the evidence today is from the okay? Can be really dangerous. Right then, let me just show you the lyrics before we move on. So the man who wrote that song lived in Kelso. Yeah, they've got the mass, his name is Thompson, it's the Thompson's Monument, right next to where Councillor Hutton and Ian Fingland, the treasonous policeman, live, and right opposite my wife's new address, which I'm now allowed to know, and it's Thompson's View. Strongly affiliated to Chipping Norton and the Prime Minister and the psychiatric people in the Chipping Norton set. That's the Freud family. Dr. Basil Switzer had never heard that the Freuds drink with the Prime Minister as one of the country's leading geopolitical hitmen, who's placed the sectioning order on me and then screwed off out of the country. Okay, so here are some images. I'm going to bring the camera in now. Oh no, let me show you the lyrics, because all of it is cynical, all of it is a joke about the gods in the skies, and all of it is about them fulfilling the Christian mission in other people's pagan continents. Okay? And it's just like the anthem for America and the brutalisation, the land of the braves. Okay, ever so funny. There's Britannia Rules the Waves, decorated plate, made in Liverpool, circa 1793 to 1794. Original lyrics: when Britain first, at heaven's command, yeah, everything in the name of the one true God, arose from out the azure main. This was a charter of the land, and guardian angels sang this strain. Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, never, never will be slaves. You should see what I found out about the register of the ancestry of the elites and the aristocracy and all of the monarchs all across Europe this morning. I will show you a link to that if I've got time at the end. But I want to show you that I've become quite accomplished as a genealogist. And I've told you all about the links of the American presidents to the Pilgrim Fathers. And I'm quite bemused this morning to try and find out how the woman that is linked to the Bridget Dryden name and the Marbury people that she married into, yeah, she was born in 1563. But when you look up her peripheral profile on the genealogy tabs, you find that she links into Charlemagne, William the Conqueror, and his children. Yeah, and all of that takes you back to the Anglo-Saxon people. I dare not take you back to that at the moment in case I lose my strand. And what we've got is, so there's Bridget Dryden, that was the key into finding President Nixon, George W. Bush, FDR, and all of those people that sailed on the Mayflower. And I thought to myself, how can they proclaim that this woman in America now, that came out of, I think it was the Alford region in Lincolnshire in Britain. It's on the flatlands at the east side of the Thames estuary and above the Thames estuary. Yeah, and that is the claim that was made about Bridget Dryden and the Marburys being the groundwork for all of the elites in America through all of American history, and the naming of all of those rivers and all of the jokes that you see in the Marx Brothers output. So when you look at these family trees, I learned that if you find a name that you've learned about in the lineage and you find it 1, 2, 3, 4 generations ahead, you can click on the little tabs and jump to the next generations, and it's great fun. It's like the Frogmore project. Yeah, the fact that someone in the frog community is going to rise up and be a really influential king or queen, and all of that is romantic bullshit. Yeah, and that's the basis for the Frogmore Cemetery, where all of the treasonous leaders get implanted at the end of their treasonous lives. Right then, so the Dryden name is obviously part of Bridget's lineage. So we need to scan around a bit and find someone else that we might have heard of before. I can't remember what the name was that I cottoned onto here, but let's scan down. Oh, I think it was Cope. Oh no, it could be Raleigh. Yeah, so the Copes and the Raleighs are part of the videos I've made on the Bushes and the FDRs and the Nixons. Yeah, and you've got Spencers, you've got loads to choose from that we've already heard about. My bosses in New Zealand that were treasonous to me and got me the 25 grand for the unfair dismissal was a woman called Nicholson from Musselburgh, and her husband is the Burns Club narrator. All of them dedicate their lives to dismembering their new countries. I feel particularly sorry for New Zealand because it's so besotted with sport that it cannot see that it's being robbed blind by the people that went there all those centuries back. Okay, so we could click on the Copes. I don't know what I clicked on this morning. It was one of those famous names from the profiling. And can you see that the Raleighs are already in the story? 1473, there's an Edward Raleigh. So we can go to the Spencers, and that is the names for the Churchills and the linkages to them. So we're getting hot now, we're getting secret places. Yeah, the people that were already revealed in the bloodlines, yeah, they're in the tree. So you go back to the top and you click on that little tab and you go forward a couple of generations. But instead of doing that, we'll go this way as I did. And so these are the button presses that I've already made that mean that we'll get the same result if I press it again in the forward direction. So I focused on the Raleighs and I clicked on, I wanted to see their family tree and genealogy tools, so on I go. Ah, shit. Sorry, the cable has just come undone. Please, please, light up the computer again. I might have to... Oh, sorry, the cable fell off. Okay, let me just fix it. That's it done. So, let's go back to that. And there's what we opted for, the free family tree. It's excellent. Okay, so Edward Raleigh, we're still well forward in time, but way short of the bushes still. And this woman goes all the way back to Charlemagne and the Anglo-Saxons that tried to turn the tide in Britain when they were still in charge. All of them are from elsewhere. Even in the Roman era, all through Scotland, above the walls, that's the only place where we have indigenous people, but those are mainly Norsemen, I'm led to believe. Okay, and so what we do is we keep clicking in that forward direction, which is actually taking us back in time from the lady that was Miss Dryden. Okay? Okay, and so here's the Raleigh family, loads of them. None of them are the Raleigh that I'm going to talk about later on. Did you know that the man Raleigh, Sir Walter, was in the Tower for quite a long chunk of his life? Because he married a woman without Queen Elizabeth I's permission. So both of them get put in the Tower for that. That's the power of the monarchy even in those days. The female gender prepared to incarcerate a woman who's made a choice about one of her courtiers, yet that's one of the Queen Elizabeth's courtiers fancies Sir Walter, and they have a child even before they're incarcerated. And some of the next children are incarcerated the next time he's put in the Tower for some of the superficial things that he does on behalf of this great nation in other people's continents. That's the pagan continents in the name of Christianity. And at the end of his life, he gets a really bad result. Yeah, all based on monarchy decisions. Yeah, and that is the monarchy by the time that he gets beheaded that has created the Christian Bible. And that's the Christian ethic now. Scare the shit out of them. If they stand in your way, just lop their head off. The sun has come out, even although it's quite a sinister topic. Okay, so who can we pick on now to go further back in time? Look how quickly we can move through. If we go 4 generations at a time, we can get back to the 1300s now, and there's still Raleighs, but none of them are Sir Walter. Okay, Swinfords. Let's have a wee scan at, see if we can find some famous names without my handle thing falling off again. Coatsford, Thomas Green's. Ah, that's the one I clicked on. The Talbots. Do you remember them in the story? The tall boys, for a little derivative. Now that the Christian cross joke about the T being the cross is known to everyone, it's far safer to make it yourself called the tall boys. Yeah, generation after generation of them in the presidential bloodlines. Okay, Staffords, Dispensers. I don't know, that may be a joke about pharmacies in Eastern Europe, but I'm not particularly concerned about that. Okay, so let's see, I'm not sure what I clicked on here. I believe it would have been the Talbots, but let's have a look, see what we get in the next forward tab. So here we go. Onward Christian Soldiers. Yeah, Gilbert Talbot. Yeah, brother of Elizabeth Talbot Grey, husband of Anchoret Strange, father of Gilbert Talbot, Talbot. You remember all the tall boys? There's the next one, because that's the Scottish connection. That's the Commons. Yeah, I've got Commons in my hometown. They're great people. I've loved them and lusted after them for decades. But they're so good that I cannot get anywhere near them. And they're great on the rugby pitch too, and they always have been. And it's brilliant. Some of these were murdered by the Bruces. That's the allegation. Because of the inexactitude of all of this history, you cannot actually know what the real story is. But now, we're back to 1306, and we're getting close to Longshanks. Okay, and there's the Balials that are involved in all of the kingdom decisions in the Braveheart movie, and all of the murders that take place of the innocents, yeah, and that takes us into Galloway, where I've been scanning around for the links to Utrecht and the families that are the Galloway aristocracies, and that is really sinister. If I've got time at the end, I will take you where that takes us, and it takes us into the Umphrevilles that take us into the world's leading fascist families and the authors of Burke's peerage since World War II. That's Oswald Moseley and his marriage to Diana Mitford. The Mitford sisters are in love with Hitler before the war, and when Hitler is defamed after the war, they gradually step down. They are friends of the abdicated King and Mrs. Simpson for all of their lives. Okay? These people are really nice in comparison. And that is the Redesdale people, where I used to take my children to fish in the local reservoir, and there was a menacing message that in the farm across the reservoir there was a paedophile lived there. All of it is covered up by trivia like that, and this is the running of the world by William the Conqueror's ancestors. Because in the stories we got yesterday about Bridget, yeah, that she was related to the King Henry the First and the Second, yeah, and those are the relatives of Longshanks. 4 male children. Okay. And so this time, being a Scotsman and a patriot, and being, you know, a very great fan of the Common Family since I watched them playing rugby for Kelso, yeah, and the female gender are equally attractive, much more attractive. Okay, so I picked that one, and you just go for one of these tabs here, and we go 1 generation or 2 generations. We could have gone for the Balials and seen all of the Mary Queen of Scots treason and the Longshanks and the Braveheart stuff about getting the women's throat cut, yeah, but I opted for the Commons. So let's click on forward again, and hey presto, we have Longshanks and his weedy homosexual lineage, married to Eleanor of Aquitaine, I think, yeah, and the French connection. And here we are, right into the Plantagenet dynasty. That's the broom joke. That is the Broomlands joke about where Dr. Fingland lives and where Thompson's Monument looks down onto. Are you beginning to see the magnitude of the treason? These are Scottish people born and raised in this town. And you heard Jim Fetzer asking me, is there any way, unless it was corrupted, that Scotland could have lost its independence referendum? Jim and I agreed on Remembrance Sunday that that was unlikely if it was a fair election, but as everybody now knows, the politicians are just puppets. Ever since the power base like him were able to run the country by violence, and the treaties that we made in Birgham, just down the road from Kelso, just down the road from the Thompson's Monument, Rule Britannia forever. And the Treaty of Birgham is a declaration that Scotland can never be free of the English monarchs. In these cases, they're just a couple of generations from King Guillaume, yet William with the G on the front, as a joke about God's representative on this earth. Okay, so I think that's as far as I went. So you can now see that Bridget is legitimately linked to all of the power brokers, but not to poor Sir Walter. Let me profile him for a little bit. There he is, fine looking man, lovely little pointed moustache, and you should see he's still got the pointed moustache when he's really grey and he's dedicated his whole life to taking over the colonies for Britain. Yeah, and that's Latin America that he went to. Really dangerous place. That's the Amazon. All of that conquered now. All of it is now in the hands of North America. All of the countries, all of the false news plants about politicians like the revolutionary people that died recently, in South America, forget the name of the man, all of them are false news out of these English speaking countries. Okay, it's got the cami knickers like Francis Drake. Always bemused me when I saw the English heroes wearing kit like that. Okay, so where do we go? We go forward, and that's the ships that we've. His name is associated with the Armada context and fleets of ships and trading with other people's countries. We talked about John Hancock's in Boston being a smuggler, and that is an obligation if you're an American citizen under this empire system. Because everything that is taken there and taken out is taxed. and it's really amazing how harshly Sir Walter was treated. There's the British flag flying up there, the Red Cross. Do you get it? That was the Red Cross and the affiliations with Geneva that we still have at the head of government in Britain. That is Rebecca Brooks and the interlocks with Prince Charles's companies and all of Christopher Chambers' links to the UBS banks, and all of it is tragic. All of it has gone to the same select group of families that I was stunned by when I read the other website this morning. Right into Eastern Europe, right into Russia. It's all stitched up by the English speaking nations. So Britain rules the waves. And here now we've got Armada and Puddle. I'm looking for the incident which is depicted in world history, and I think it's on the thumbnail for the video I made yesterday. Let me show you that, remind you about the presidential links. Okay, so that is that video. Okay, and let's make that full screen, because that is the American president's mugshots. Okay, that is the bloodlines that come from the woman who's that lovely lady. The families still live in Kelso, and they live right next to Broomlands too, and they teach in the primary school, which is the Broomlands Primary School. All of that happening in Scotland as a joke about Scottish independence in my hometown that I love because I'm a romantic person, and I came back because I was homesick. So there's Nixon, there's the Hutch jokes, all of the people in the town, the Pilgrim Fathers, the Piso joke everywhere across the transcript, the Mayflower being all of these people launched into that. The Hales are in the story. They're in this bloodline that take you from Anne Hutchison, not Anne Hutchison in this case, it's Bridget Dryden, right up to the power base that is him. And all of it, all of the religious jokes, all of the profiteering in every sector of life is explained in the 3 videos I've made in the last 3 days. Okay, and all of the wars, everything that happens, there's the Puddle incident with him in his revolutionary red gear falling down in front of redhead Queen Elizabeth I. And when you look in Jedburgh Castle at the image of Queen Mary, Queen of Scots, she's redheaded too. Dead ringer for Rebecca Brooks, but there's the presidents. That's the Queen's half-brother. There's Obama, not an American citizen. There's the Phrygian hat. There is that joke too. Out of the Aegean region, out of the Lagos, the rabbit mythology, and the Phrygian hats that become the red fez for Islam. And there's the bunny ears joke that all of them laugh at too. Okay, so, and what was the other thumbnail on there? So there's the one I made yesterday about all of the jokes about the red caps being the fairies in the execution teams when you get familicide for the next heir to the throne. all of the profiteering, all of the crimes of boating, who's a Christian preacher and a munitions magnate, and everybody gets the shallow grave in the Prime Minister's constituency, and all of the redcaps, 50,000 of them in wartime, are keeping an eye on the people that eventually, if they speak out or refuse to fight with their neighbours as Jesus demanded of them, they get put in front of the firing squad by the commanders-in-chief, who are the stammering king or the queen in the little blue dress that is famous now as Eva Braun's dress code when she flees from the bunker. All of them are profiteers on the same side, and you've got those images already, all of the director interlocks, all of the references to the leading banks like the Hambros Bank. It is a total stitch up, and they pop in little jokes about religion too. That's the Watchtower, which is the tune for all of the military police across Europe. Yeah, the Watchtower tune. That's the Jehovah's magazine. Sun's gone in again. Anyway, so what else can I tell you? So I was telling you about how harshly the poor explorer that is this guy gets treated. Let's keep going, see what happens to him at the end of his days, because he marries a courtier in Queen Elizabeth I's court, and at the end of his life he turns on King James that wrote the fucking Bible, and King James immediately turns on him and lops his head off. Pictures of it later on. There he is, down on his knees, like the religious gesture. Yeah, you know all about the rain patterns now, and the weather patterns, and that those are acts of God. It's nothing to do with global warming and the potential that human citizens will now have to be taxed for breathing. Okay, and the next one is, it's somewhere in the so I'm looking now for him being incarcerated in the Tower of London, because in the Wikipedia profile he has been incarcerated in the Tower of London 2 or 3 times in his life. The first for marrying the courtier without the Queen's permission. She's in the Tower too. That's how they get treated in those days. Not much better now. When you speak the truth, it's the equivalent. Yeah, I'm getting execution by the NHS for my truths. Yeah, and I don't know how they're going to live with themselves with that hanging over their heads. That's live with themselves in the Broomland estate. Yeah, Christian preacher in that case is Alistair Hutton. He had a warm smile on his face when I told him on Saturday that I was being sectioned for my political activity. He trained me how to prepare for elected office with the Scottish Borders Council that is now sectioning me for my insight into their frauds. Driven out of Hamilton, where the fascists that are the Hesses still live. Right, so keep going, show you the pictures, and then I'll show you some more of the so that's Tower of London, still gets no hits. Oh yeah, there it is, there he is. So that's him in all his finery with his feather in his cap, and the pipe joke is all through the story. When you look at the images on the tobacco later on, you'll see it. There's the Tower. Yeah, that's where William Wallace was alleged to have been executed, and all of this is because he's doing his best for his country, and every time for trivial things like choosing his own partner, yeah, he gets incarcerated in the Tower. And by the end of his life, in the next few images, you'll see how stressed he's looking. Yeah, there he is, he's gone grey. Yeah, and there he is looking up to the gods, yeah, that were the inspiration for that RULE BRITANNIA profiteering song that tears every country apart. By deceit we shall do war. It's exactly what my wife has done to me. She's working in that team. When our mother came to Scotland for the first time, she could reel off the lyrics of RULE BRITANNIA, and she knew who the Thomson was that was the monument was built to. Okay, so there he is waiting for his beheading, and there he is with his... She's not the executioner, because by this time he's guilty of defaming the man who's the king, just a boy. All the decisions made by the treasonous courtiers all through human history, yeah, and all of that means that the boy gets blamed of giving him the sentence to lop his head off. I don't remember what age King James got to, but he became the king at age 6. Yeah, and the courtiers get to manipulate everything, and it's ever so dangerous for everybody involved, including the monarchs. Yeah, and she lops the heads of the contenders, yeah, Mary Queen of Scots, and all of that was in the story yesterday about the Redcaps and the blame for a lot of the assassinations going to the ghosts that haunt the castles. It's a really clever way to run the country if you can get away with it, supported entirely by the NHS people who are pledged to save lives. I think we're nearly through the pictures now. Okay, so you now understand, yeah, that smoking is dangerous. Discovering tobacco is dangerous if you don't keep sucking and licking the arses of the powers that be. And the people that become British American tobacco all smoke the cigar, yeah, like Basil Switzer. In the pictures on the front pages of the newspapers, there's a big Basil Switzer lookalike smoking a cigar, yeah. And they think they're really clever, and in the interviews on the clinical treatments he used the same joke about the snotty handkerchief that is used in the London Olympics joke, and all of the jokes about the elites running all of the great wars. Watch Mr. Bean with the hanky putting his finger again and again onto the organ, which is the religious joke, right in front of all of the world's people. And Mr. Bean was the war correspondent for Gallipoli, and in my hometown we have a new war memorial to the Gallipoli victims, since all of that story was released and Quentin Bryce retired within 6 weeks. It's getting quite gusty out there. Okay, so smoking is acknowledged as dangerous, which is why they laugh about it at the great summits. That's Yalta. All of them have got the cigars and the cigarettes in their hands, except for Stalin, whose left hand is withered as an act to God and one of those palsies. Yeah? There's Winnie's cigar, there's FDR with his cigarette, yeah? And there is Stalin with his withered left hand. God is extremely powerful and insightful, and they get to transit all around the world, and in the background I believe that Beaverbrook is in one of those photos. I think that may be him. And all of it, they're planning how to optimise the profiteering, because he is the head of the Navy and Beaverbrook is the head of the munitions for the planes, and all of them, they put Moseley, the fascist, out of the Umphrevilles jokes in Redesdale, where the Mitfords come from, and they're in love with Hitler, and he is in charge of the War Office. Yeah, 60,000 combatants, non-combatants, under the charge of Britain's leading fascist, all of whose family members are friends of Hitler. And the abdicated king is already in France, having a laugh. Everything is treasonous, and all of the poor people fail to see it until they become the victims of the Poppy Fund. Right then, I could stop there. Did we get to the end of the family tree for the Plantagenets? Yet we did. We got up to there. So we could take it all the way up to Nixon, FDR, whichever one you choose. Yeah, all of the world leaders through all of world history are from the same families, all related to the Bible fraudsters that were the Pisos and the Roman emperors that were Julius Caesar, with the same initials in Britain 50 years BC, yeah, in the Mithraeum, planning the plot. JC, Jesus Christ, Julius Caesar, and every one of the emperors, and all of them intermarry with the Piso family, and all of that becomes a joke in sweeties, the naming of sweets, the naming of movies, the naming of the children, the writing of the Arthurian legends, and the whole lot is a stitch up for all of world history. And I'm getting execution by the NHS. And I want you to know all of the characters. The next person who comes in on the job, along with the man who's called the same name as the legendary Indian killer author, so that is Guy Cooper, yeah, that's Fenimore Cooper, yeah, in the ancestry of the 500 nations, which we're very unaware of, because all of them are in the shallow graves already. And that was the stories that I told you about the Hutchison lineage, and the people that advised the American Indians, took the weapons from them, and still they were able to kill them with their bows and arrows. Right, shall we stop there? So let's see what other tabs are open, just as a matter of interest. I want to show you that massive thing that is the okay, so there's the Bridget Dryden story. Was born 1562 in Ashby, St Ledgers. That's the race, yeah, the GG race. You've got the Derby and you've got the St Ledger from Northamptonshire, England. And she was married to John Dryden, 1526 to 1584, and Elizabeth Cope. So you can see how you can work your way through the lineages and find out, you know, who the people are when every great conflict is commissioned by the world leaders. You can see what their relatives are, and you can ask the people in your hometown whether or not they're directly related to them. They will probably deny it, but all of it becomes, yeah, my lineage that is the Cooks that married into my sister, always hugely proud of Captain Cook, who discovered, yeah, the South Pacific and discovered New Zealand, and all of its sovereignty has now gone. Some of their relatives live there, some of their, you know, ancestors lived there for a very brief period of time, and it is really tragic that no one gets to allow God's decisions to plant the indigenous people where they were planted. Almost all of them have been disappeared. Yeah, and died 2nd April 1645 in Hartford, Hertfordshire, England, of unspecified causes. She married Francis Marbury, 1555, in Alford, Lincolnshire. Notable ancestors, now look how far back it goes. I've taken you back to Longshanks and the Plantagenets, or the first generation of children beyond Longshanks. Yeah, that's a skinny looking poofda that's in the film. Okay, in Alford, Lincolnshire, notable ancestors include Charlemagne, 747 to 814 AD, Alfred the Great, King Alfred in Britain, the Anglo-Saxon, 849 to 899, Hugh Capet, the people that are in the French dynasty, I think they become the Bourbons, Rurik, 832 to 879, Henry II of England. Yeah, that I believe is William the Conqueror's children. That's Guillaume the Conqueror. Yeah, if you're interested in a joke about God. William I of England, 1027, 1087. That is William the Conqueror. Ancestors, so yeah, 1066. right in the middle of that, and that is the takeover of Britain and Britain's pagan religions by the Church of Rome and the massive forces and warlords that are the bishops, the archbishops, all of the people that build those massive abbeys and knock them down again. Ancestors are from the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Russia, Ukraine, Spain, Portugal, England, Belgium, Netherlands, Ireland. Do I need to show you the evidence of what I've just said about poor old, I've never had an affiliation with very many people in English history before, but I feel really sorry for Sir Walter. Yeah, it is really, really sickening. Why is it not coming up? So that's, you can look it up for yourself. I'll just show you the pictures. Okay, so there's the woman that he married without Queen Elizabeth I's permission, and both of them get sent to the Tower for that. Okay, Elizabeth Throgmorton, and the Captain Carew jokes are that the children of them, for them, were Walter Carew. Okay, and he was born in Hayes, in Barton. Yeah, and the Hayes story is also in the lineages with Nixon and the other people that take you into Winston Churchill and all of those ancient jokes. Winston Churchill is one of those biggest killers in our world. Yeah, he attends all of those summits, Yalta, Iran, Chinese with Chiang Kai-shek and all of the power brokers all over the world. But that's China. They don't have power brokers. They have English trainees, yeah, planted in them, and that is why Stalin's left hand is withered. Okay, so portrait of Sir Walter Raleigh, inscribed right. 80th. Oh, it's posh in Latin. Yeah. And he left his motto, amor in virtue, love and virtue, all of it. Yeah, his head lopped off because he said something out of line after all he had done for his country. But he never ever visited North America. It's written quite early on. He was born into a Protestant family in Devon, son of Walter Raleigh and Catherine Champion. Okay, landed gentleman, cousin to Sir Richard Greville and Sir Humphrey Gilbert. He is also well known for popularising tobacco in England. Let's just go and look at the pictures, see what we can find. You should watch it. I had no idea that he had been incarcerated and that he was beheaded at the end of his life. And the ghouls thing, and the argent, that's the silver icons on the Raleigh family. And you saw how many Raleighs were directly related to Bridget. Okay, early life, Irish phase, the New World. Yeah, he does not get to North America ever in his life. He goes in search of El Dorado. Yeah, and you know that North America was discovered by the Spaniards, who took over the whole of Latin America before the English came to try and take it off them. Yeah, the whole, they're called the Five Flies. That's the Netherlands, the Dutch fleet, the Spanish fleet, the English fleet, the French fleet, and one other, Portuguese. Five Flies. Still laughed at in the restaurants when I went with my colleagues in the intensive care sector, who forced me into resignation because they never give Africa the health care that we've had for 200 years. Okay, so let's just show you the pictures. There he is, already slightly greying, painted by William Cigar maybe, not sure how you pronounce that. John Everett Millais, The Boyhood of Raleigh. Yeah, and Raleigh's first pipe with the word pie in it. Yeah, Harold Wilson takes that joke right on into the carpet bombing of the Garden of Eden in 1963, when Sir Alec Douglas Home had just bailed out of office, and he pretends that he dedicates the whole of his life to protecting Africa. To my knowledge, Sir Alec did not smoke a pipe for a laugh at the Piso authors of the Christian Bible. Okay, and David Skegg, who left my mailing list as an honorary knight of the British realm, spent his whole life in Dunedin looking into the dangers of tobacco smoking, and all of the drug safety units have been shut down under that man's watch. As soon as I came back home and became political, he dropped out of my mailing list. Sir David Skegg. Every one of them is planted into the royal institutions, and that is the end of the decency and the funding for all of those sectors. Every sector of life is asset stripped by the royals that have asset stripped the whole of God's wonderful world. Spencer's, you can find it in the genealogical listings. Okay, the Fairy Queen. Yeah, are you seeing the irony of all of their jokes now? The fairy castle on Skye is where the Lloyds of London people, yeah, sink the ships, and my wife thinks that's huge comedy, because all of the people who are trained in intel are told about these superficial jokes and crimes against the world's people, which they entirely defend by surveilling everybody's home now. There he is again. That's him with another pipe smoking device in his hand. Engraved portrait of Raleigh. And I think we'll see the Raleigh's house at Blackwall, London. National Maritime Museum. Rule Britannia. Britain never, never, never shall be slaves, but every other country on the world shall be enslaved by them and asset stripped by them and owned by them, even into the period where we cannot smack our children, but we can execute the freedom fighters and those who are prepared to take a risk to let the truth out by executing them in the NHS by the fraudsters that were exposed by Professor George Lees in 2011. Look at Dr. X and Dr. Y on my website, and you will see the magnitude of Ian Fingland's treason on behalf of the Crown in England, trained as a copper before he trained as a doctor. Sandy Morris is much more decent and upstanding. All of it is explained on my website since 2011, when they were Dr. X and Dr. Y. Okay, so Raleigh was knighted and was appointed warden of the stannaries, that is the tin mines. Rio Tinto also belongs to the Queen's massive empires of holdings, along with the South African holdings, and that is all of the South African fraudsters that are the apartheid leaders, the Du Plessis, and the links of them to the elites in France have been explained in the last 3 videos I made. He's Lord Lieutenant of Cornwall and Vice Admiral of the 2 counties. Okay? Deptford, that's part of the Baroness Blackstone's empire and the Admiralty up the Thames River. Okay, I used to work near Deptford, and he's took the form of a reduction in the sum Walter owed to the Queen, so he gets massive allowances, but he's alleged when they behead him to be spying for the Spaniards. Raleigh and his son Walter in 1602, captain of the Yeomen of the Guard, great officers of state in the Armada, year 1588. In 1591, Raleigh was secretly married to Elizabeth Bess Throckmorton, or Throgmorton. The Morton name keeps coming into the treason. That's Sir Desmond Morton in World War II, and Uncle Desmond for the treasonous spy. She was one of the Queen's ladies in waiting, 11 years his junior, and was pregnant at the time. She gave birth to a son believed to be named Damarai, who was given to a wet nurse at Durham House, but died in October 1592 of plague. God is ever so good at making people know what's good and bad.
Bess resumed her duties to the Queen the following year. The unauthorised marriage was discovered, and the Queen ordered Raleigh to be imprisoned and Bess dismissed from court. Both were imprisoned in the Tower of London in June 1592. He was released from prison in August to manage a recently returned expedition attack on the Spanish coast. Although recalled by the Queen, the fleet captured an incredibly rich prize. Wait for it, it's another joke about God. The Madre de Dios, the Mother of God. It's the Virgin, yeah, who's now, yeah, yeah, she is the Father of the God that is the deity that is Jesus Christ, that is the same initials as Julius Caesar. He was sent back to the Tower by early 1593 and had been released and became a member of Parliament. Yeah, you can see the root power. Yeah, that still prevails. I think this is quite boring, and you can read it for yourself. All of it is in search of that. That's the El Dorado concept, the city of gold. Yeah, and he specialises in brutalising Latin America, Eastern Venezuela. That's where Chavez died last year. All of them false news plants planted in there as multi-millionaires by the world leaders, like Obama, who's not even a citizen of his country. The book can be seen as a contribution to the El Dorado legend. Yeah? And I've told you about the Spaniards being the original discoverers of the west coast of America, and all of them were chased out of there when the cavalry chased all of the Indians all across America, yeah, across to the west coast, and then the Spaniards get evicted, and all the munitions and all the shootings at border control between Mexico still runs the Piso currency, yeah, like the Philippines. It's the Piso authors that are relatives of FDR and the Bush brothers, the Bush father and son, and the grandpa that is Sheldon Cooper in the Big Bang Theory comedies. Everything is covered in popular culture. Yeah? In 1596, Raleigh took part in the capture of Cadiz, where he was wounded. He also served as a rear admiral. Islands voyage to the Azores in 1597. Yeah? The Armada was dispersed by a storm, but Lord Howard of Effingham and Raleigh were able to organise a fleet which resulted in the capture of a Spanish ship during the retreat, carrying vital information regarding the Spanish plans. Chosen Member of Parliament for Dorset, for Cornwall, he was unique in the Elizabethan period in sitting for 3 counties, from 16 to 1603 as Governor of the Channel Island of Jersey. Can you see the linkages? Yeah? We've got the import-export trade, we've got the tax evasion, and we've got the havens right next to Calvados, where all of the French religious sector came from in the first place. And that is not a race like the St. Leger, but that is also, I think, one of the Channel Islands. Okay, I'm going to stop in a few minutes. I want to show you what I discovered about the conglomerates of elites all across Europe, and I think that will be on the last tab that I've created along here. It's an amazingly complex website, and I'm ever so grateful for them for showing me that it's there. I don't know that. A history of the Umphrevilles. So this is the stuff on the this is the stuff on the Mitfords. Yeah. So this one takes one to Pont Eland. Yeah, that's on the outskirts of Newcastle, where my wife's mum's relatives lived, and some of the leading football players for Newcastle lived. I forget the name of the centre forward that used to elbow people, and I loved him on the pitch for his brutality. I forget his name. Played number 9 for England and Newcastle United. Yeah, and Ponteland is the joke about being the bridge to England. Yeah, yeah, and that is the bridge for the Umphrevilles family, that are the people that run the Redesdale estates, that become the Mitford family's properties. Yeah, and it's just a few miles south of the Scottish border, just a few miles south of Michael Ancram's massive estates, the Vestey's massive estates. They're the fraudsters that run Sutherland and Argentina in wartime, because they bugger off to Argentina in wartime, and when they get their knighthoods or their lordships, they are allowed to come back to Britain as treasonous people. And they have a massive beef empire, massive estates in Sutherland, like the Duchess of Sutherland and the Morreys and all of the Moormers, yet there are the Murrays and the Morreys and the De Morneys that we talked about yesterday. A massive stitch up, and all of it in the name of Christianity. Dismembers the whole of Northern Europe, and then they flit across the Atlantic and they do the same thing there using these methods. So let me quickly profile it, because what you see is that these families have moved all across the Scottish and English border from east to west. So they operate out of Cumbria, then they operate out of the places where we went from Hexham to get our passports to go to New Zealand. Okay, let me just name some of the names. So this takes one to the Pont Eland area, the bridge to England, all along the eastern border and right up to Otterburn, yeah, Vestey and Jedburgh Sheriff Court, where Michael Ancram and the Kerrs and the Redesdale people reside. It's the launch of the Moseley family, married to Diana Mitford, professed to be in love with Hitler, the Bertie joke, all of her relatives, the father, the brothers, the children, all have Bertrand or Bertie in their name. That's the French. That is the people that were the I forget what you call them in the classical nomenclature. They were called like the Plantagenets is a classic descriptor. I'd have to take you into the timelines to remember what their name was. The Merovingians, yeah, the Merovingians, yeah. It's right through the history of Christianity. So the Bertie joke is all through the history, and it takes us along Deer Street, that's the Roman road, to Wylam, to Prudhoe, and to Newcastle. Prudhoe is where we got our passports renewed and our police check before I was allowed to go to New Zealand. I'm not allowed to leave the country now because I'm ill with my psychiatric problems. They've disabled me from driving. Yeah, and it now takes over a week to open a bank account in this country, and all of the bank accounts that I've had, there is no interest been paid on any of them over the last 4 or 5 years. It's amazing. There is no law enforcement anywhere, and the innocents get it in the neck all of the time, which is why I feel sorry for Sir Walter Raleigh. And he wears ludicrous looking cami knickers, a bit like my running shorts, but he is never accused of any psychiatric problems. And then we go to the Newcastle that is the linguistics, or the umbilical, that's the Umphrevilles, yeah? That's the Umphrevilles joke, that's the FR word in the middle, that is the French religious joke and diaspora. Okay, but I cannot see that excellent web page that I've discovered this morning with all of the classifications. I'll make an here it is. Yeah, here it is. We'll go from the bottom up. It explains every lineage in the medieval eras that now become the kings and queens, presidents, dukes, yeah, all of the baronetcies. And a barony around here was where you would pay the king not to be conscripted into his armies, and then you would make the poor people that are your tenant farmers even be conscripted. It's explained. Let me just show you how comprehensive this is. So that's the Scandinavian, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and we've mentioned the Ings and the links to those, and all of the people that attended Mandela's funeral. All of the Danish monarchs were having a laugh on their selfies with Obama, and all of them in that arena for the poor people's representative are wearing fur coats, which is part of the Piso joke. Russia, Rurikid, Polotsk, Grand Princes of Kiev, all of it takes you through all of world history into the medieval, and these people are still trading. The Tsars of Russia, they're Romanovs with Rothschilds in their middle names now. Grand Princes, yeah? So we pretend that these are the communist menaces post-war. They still own everything, yeah? Everything across our world is stitched up. Okay, Poland, princes and kings of Poland. Yeah, I've told you about the family names that are very familiar to me. Yeah, the Lesenjas. Yeah, I will not tell you what the Scottish equivalent of that is. They are Polish princesses married into French kings and queens, and the Polish people are prepared to denounce me as being psychiatrically unhinged because they've been brought into the country to do that. Their children are charming. The Pomeranian jokes, that's Poland and the Baltic states. That's the Baltic, where all across it the Gazprom project is run by Gerhard Schroeder, the former Chancellor from either Göttingen or Heidelberg. Yet all of them are immune from bombing in World War II. They provide the rocket scientists and the nuclear physicists to do for Japan. Japan is not listed on this because this is the really fortunate European elites. I cannot find any link to Berlusconi in there. That's southern Italy. He's from the Celtic region at the top, which is why Celtic got to play Inter Milan in the final. Yeah, that's Inter Milan is the Celtic region of Italy. Okay. And now Kenny Matheson Dalglish is on the boardroom with all of the massive frauds of that man Reid, who chaired the 13th or 14th inquest into the Chinook crash for profit and for political manipulation in Ireland, okay, which is also on the list. Sicily, Naples, Dukes of Apelli, Melas, Counts and Dukes, Gozos, Apullos, kings of Sicily and the mafias of Sicily. Nobility in central Italy, papal states, Silanos, Monopellos, Calenos, Tiano, County de Treto. The chip shop in Kelso renewed their death threat to me yesterday. The Orsinis, yet the Cross Keys Hotel is run by an Italian. The Cross Keys is the icon for the Scottish flag. The Saltire flag, St Andrew, 19 patron-sainted countries never actually existed. Ferraras, Milan, Lords of Milan, that's where Berlusconi's from. No hint of what his linkage is to the medieval ancestors that are the world owners still. Bologna, Bentivoglio, Concordia, Conti de Concordia. Yeah, that's the Costa Concordia that was sunk as a false news flag, or potentially an act of God. No one can know. And the name of the ship has the KKK icon when you spell it in Italian. Or it might have been Greek. Cagliari, Torres, Bizerno, Tuscany, Aldobrandeschi, Ardengheshi, Padova, de Romano, Conti de Verona, Signori de Verona. Massive, massive ancestral lineages, all of which will still be alive today. I've told you about the German linkages and the Herzogs being the claimant to the Stuart throne in Scotland now. Okay, northern Italy, this is the Celtic region, but there's no mention of Berlusconi. He will be one of the counts or the dukes. Genova, Bergamo, Brescia, Chiavenna, Conti di Milano, Conti di Pavia, Conti di Sospiro. So that is Berlusconi that was on the G8 when they left the year before they blew up the Twin Towers from Genoa, where Christopher Columbus sailed from to discover America too. All of it is proclaimed in advance. It's like releasing the shares now in every big city across the world. You just launch a scam and all of the poor people lose their jobs and all of the coupons get crashed and everybody's pensions are worthless. Okay, we're into Spain now. and we've got the El Cid names, the Toledos, Valencia, Zaragoza. Do you remember it? The common man, the Emirate of Cordoba and Caliphate, Umayyad dynasty of Hamudid or Hassanid dynasty, Taifa kings in Almeria, Badajoz, Denia, Granada, Murcia, Galicia nobility, families of Hermin, Gildo, Gonzalez, Menendez, and the banker is on the list. There he is, Osorio, yeah, Ortez Osorio, the man that run the Lloyds banking group and the Lloyds Verdi project into the ground. Every one of the savings account that are now trading on the high streets of my town, because I need to get the money out of my wife's divorce solicitor's accounts, and my wife's divorce solicitor is out of the country as it happens. Yeah, so that's Orterio that runs the frauds at Lloyds into the ground. Okay, Osorio rather. Yeah, and all of them are linked in to the Castros of Cuba and the Castrol logos that are the oil magnates in our high streets, even in the 1960s. Castile and Leon, all of it is in the El Cid movie. Catalonian nobility, Aragon nobility, all of it is in the Lord of the Rings film. The kings who have been exiled, the one true kingdom, all of them coming back to claim their rights, and all of the poor people are just the mindless orcs, or the rugby fans, or the football supporters. And it's really easy to see that. Baden, Württemberg, oh, we're into Germany, Alsace, where I worked, yeah, in the pharmaceutical industry, the dukes in Alsace. I've been talking to people from Switzerland this very week. Herren von Rappolstein, Grafen von Sarwaden, Grafen von Werd. Yeah, I cannot afford a bottle of Gewürztraminer, which is the Alsatian wine. It's £9 in the supermarket now. Yeah, the cheapest drinks when we came back in 2009 in the supermarket in a decent bottle of wine were under £3. There's nothing under a fiver now, and they tell you that inflation is running at less than 1% per year. The inflation on the energy bills that are all run by European companies as conglomerates to steal from the people that made the company in the first place. That is the Scottish people and the English people and the Welsh people and the Irish people. All of them are now European magnates. Yeah, like Galan. He's the professor at Edinburgh University. He's the friend of Alex Salmond. It's a tragedy. 20% year on year. They spiral the bills upwards. The pay has been frozen by the people who are the leading union leaders for 7 years back to back. Okay? And these are the relatives of the Windsors now. Ramsburgs, Frickinghams, Ramsons, Graffens, Stoffelins, and these are the people that were the neighbours of the Mitfords, because they go there all of the time, through even in the wartime and the lead up to it. Like all of the newspapermen, Beaverbrook visited Hitler, close friend of his, great admirer of his in the lead up. That's because they're all in the same team. So that is Swabian nobility, Swabia dukes. So there's dozens and dozens of regions of Germany yeah, to carve up. Okay, Schleswig-Holstein, Grafen-Holstein, and the Schlosses, where Mrs. Simpson waits till her divorce comes through, are now the candy floss joke. Yeah, Candy Schloss was the place in Austria where she was waiting for her divorce to be seen through. The New Brunswick thing is where Beaverbrook came from in Canada, and it's where Hitler started to preach from the Christian pulpits to rile up all of his followers in the Third Reich. And that is the no room at the Innsbruck joke, and that is the no room at the inn in the Bible story. It's absolutely shameless. Everything they do is for profit and to kill the innocents. I'm not aware of any NHS frauds. We have the best NHS in the world, yeah, and we have the personnel in it that are potentially the most treasonous people in the world, because what they're doing to me, I do not know how they will live with their conscience. Saxon nobility, Saxony dukes and electors, Widikins, Leodolfs, herzogs. Yeah, the claimants now to the Stuart throne, and the filmmakers about taking the wooden thing up the mountain at the Amazon. Yeah, and you now see how that interlocks with Sir Walter Raleigh's activities in the same region. I'm going to stop there. You can find that website. So the plug has just fallen out again. I'm going to stop because I'm ranting on a lot. But you can find that website at fmq.ac/projects/medlands/continents. It's a privately run website. It is a very, very meticulously put together piece of work. And the title at the top is, let me just get that for you. I'll get a lot of hum from that computer, so I'd better stay back. Okay. And there we have the treasure of the Sierra Madre, the tragedy about everybody in Latin America going in search for the gold, living in poverty, leaving their wives and their families in poverty, and all the great myth that you can make your fortune up in those mountains, yet that they're still fighting over, yeah, and all of the assets, all of the salmon get fished out, all of the natural assets are stripped out, and all of it, and all of the rivers are canalised and dammed. Okay, so website Holy Lands to Transylvania and Russia. Yeah, all of them are covered in that very meticulous way that you've seen. If you click on any of those family names, you'll see all of the people who go to the Bilderberg movement, all of the people that are in the Club of Rome, all of the people that are in the Royal Institute for International Affairs. Yeah, and that's the Queen, what runs the military police, and all of those jokes about lining people up, if they're like me, in front of the firing squad. Yeah, if they're like me in religion, they become martyrs. But you're allowed to do it now because they've changed the laws of the Mental Health Act Scotland in 2002. In 2012, just 1 year after Fingland failed to have me sectioned in league with my wife from Chipping Norton in 2011. Immediately after I became a fraud researcher and reported their crimes against their patients, and my wife was just beginning to use the laundering tools, yeah, that she had traded all over New Zealand. That's why I feel sorry for New Zealand, because its people are so besotted with sport that they cannot see what has happened to the sovereignty of their country. Okay, so Medieval Lands Index. I forget what the big website for that was. Maybe if I'm going to stop, yeah, because I'm going to run out of batteries. So do you see how harsh our countries are on other people's countries? And even the concept, Walter Raleigh is not in that listing, in the links to the American founding fathers and the links back to Charlemagne. Yeah, the whole of that may well be a false news story to cover up the lineage that was the Sir Walter Raleigh migrants that went to America and are now closely related to Nixon, FDR, and all of the warmongering presidencies and all of the scamsters that run the White House, which is exactly the same as the Vatican. All of the architecture, it's just a joke about all roads lead back to Rome. Right then, going to stop.